Welcome back to the second episode of the Tempcast. We hope you enjoyed the first one. We've got a crew of 4 again today, and we've got Meteor7,
Hello.
Halo Elite Legend,
How's it going?
and our guest star, Ayanami Ray Zero.
Hello there.
The first topic for discussion today is the Quantic Dream controversy, where these guys are the developers of this year's release of Detroit Become Human. The founder of the company, David Cage, was allegedly posting awkward photos of his employees all over the workplace. There were not safe for work pictures posted everywhere, and people were alleging racist, homophobic, and sexist comments all throughout.
Yeah, it's a very strange, almost frat house-ish behavior. So it says here that there were photos of female workers' heads photoshopped onto porn stars and then placed around the office, which is a bizarre form of hazing.
Sounds like
I don't
something
even know.
out of The Office.
It really does.
Well, I mean, The Office would be a lot more tasteful with that. And I think there would probably be a joke or a punchline. I don't even understand what that's supposed to be saying. These women are promiscuous? Is that what it's supposed to say? These women are... It's just a bizarre form of singling people out in an uncomfortable way.
It's like total schoolyard humor.
Yeah, I don't quite get it.
And it's not just the women, because the men had their faces photoshopped onto Nazi soldiers and placed over the urinals in the restroom.
Yeah.
Why?
That's very classy.
I mean, what a strange workplace. Why would you do that? I mean, Quantic Dream is not a tiny under-the-radar company, right? They've had breakout hits.
Yeah.
They're, they've produced cult classics. They're in the public eye now. So you'd think they'd conduct themselves with a little more professionalism, if not because, for the sake of their own dignity, but for the sake of avoiding headlines such as this. So, I mean, I don't know. It's curious, right? Who perpetrated this? Is it actually the higher-ups in the company, or was it one person who did this as a joke for one day? What exactly is the background behind this?
They're saying it was all Cage and
Cage, really?
Yeah, mostly Cage, and along with one of the lead producers.
So David Cage was going around sticking these pictures on the walls himself.
Supposedly, because there's a picture of Cage holding up a phallic object. And it was pasted there. And this journalism team goes in, they go investigate, they take all these pictures, and it's irrefutable proof that these guys are doing something weird, and then David Cage is like, no, this is slander, supposedly, alleging that it's all just to throw dirt upon the name of his company, and he's gone and he's sued those journalists for making their claims.
Oh, so he thinks the journalists made it up. See, when you said that, I thought maybe he was saying, somebody else was making up these stories and feeding them to the journalists, and he was saying, oh, there was somebody with a vendetta against us. It's well, first of all, if you do have reason to believe that's the case, why not tell us the motive? Did you recently fire somebody who left in a very salty attitude, and they were just I'll have revenge on you one day, and you have reason to believe that they perpetrated this? But no, apparently he's actually blaming the journalists themselves for making up the information.
If I'm right, they actually do have pictures of it, so they're not making it up. I know there are pictures out there. I saw a few of them.
Right, the journalists published an article full of the entirely not safe for work pictures.
Yeah, in the face of that, I struggled to find how they have any kind of case for slander.
Yeah, it's a very strange excuse they've taken, too, because it would be very easy to point the finger of blame at some non-existent past employee with a vendetta against them, right? Because that does happen. People do end up, defecating on their bosses' desks out of rage or something like that. Workplace behavior can get very puerile and very, very petty. So, there could be that, but I don't know, to blame the journalists and say they forged the pictures that they have is just, I don't know, it feels like they're just doing a vague cover-up for... And then that raises the question, why would they do it in the first place? Why Cage and the higher-ups, the founder of the company, why would he go around doing this? Is it just to
the cherry
demean
on
people?
top is that Cage said he didn't know it was going on.
Oh, so
Okay.
he admits that it was going on, he just didn't know.
See, I
Yeah.
find that extremely hard to believe, considering that the journalist found over 600 different instances of
Good
these
lord.
pictures, if I'm correct. And you don't own a studio without... Look, if you own a studio and there's 600 pictures being put up over whatever span of time, and you don't notice a single one. You know where I'm going?
Yeah,
Right.
the question is, who took the time to do this? Because I get the feeling that the higher-ups and the executives, and particularly Cage himself, would be too busy with other projects to be perpetrating this. Like, this seems like if it is 600 pictures, that doesn't come out in a day. You don't spontaneously go like, I'm going to make a funny joke, and then just put out 600 pictures all at once. That kind of takes a lot of forethought and
And
effort.
a lot of printer paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that too.
I think someone just going home on the weekend, photoshopping some things, coming into work, and like, boom, putting it up on the bathroom wall or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that would take a lot of time. Photoshopping like 300 pictures out probably take about a day or so. So, from my experience at least.
Yeah.
Oh,
Photoshopping
you have
stuff.
experience, huh?
No,
Yes, I Photoshop many coworkers' faces onto porn stars' bodies. It's basically what I
totally
do.
have. I totally have before, totally.
But regardless of what's going on, the one guy, the ex-employee who is bringing Quantic Dream to court, he did win his case, and now he can kind of claim that he was a victim and get his rights as a I think it was that he was unlawfully terminated or
Yeah,
unfair
yeah.
dismissal.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
That lawsuit
unfair
was
dismissal.
won against them. I forgot about that.
right. And the fact that 2 other ex-employees tried the same lawsuit and failed show that something's changing. Perhaps these articles did help the case.
Right.
But regardless, we're going to be seeing more winding up about that because obviously there will be the results of the court case with Quantic versus, I think it's either Canard PC and Le Monde journalist outlets, which are fairly beefy French media sites, apparently.
And Mediapart, which is a major media outlet in France. So them as well.
That's such an odd thing to take on all those media sites.
But David Cage has always been weird. Like, if you go back, so he likes making all these interactive movie-style games, and basically he's like, I want to elevate this medium by making it more movie-like, almost. And the result is something that's kind of like a Telltale game. It's his own style, of course, but it's constantly been panned for having really cliche or trite writing. And then he's also been mired in controversies in the past. If you remember, I think it was in Beyond Two Souls, where they got Ellen Page to give up her appearance, so it's like a 3D model of her in the game. There was one scene where that 3D model of Ellen Page was naked in a bathtub. Of course, you couldn't see any like inappropriate parts, but data miners who dug up the 3D model found that like things like the nipples and stuff were fully modeled out, and of course Ellen Page never signed off on any of that. She had no idea that kind of scene would even be in the game. So there's a bit of controversy there around if that's allowed. If there should have been a little bit more ethics involved in having a scene like that without the actor's permission. Then, I believe later there was another controversy where people accused David Cage of homophobia, and his basic response was, well, I know Ellen Page, and Ellen Page is against homophobia, or she's pro-LGBT, so
Right.
therefore I can't be homophobic.
Like the
Okay.
key, like, I'm not homophobic, I swear, excuse.
Yeah,
Seriously.
But like, it's not even like you know how someone might be racist and be like, I have a black friend, therefore I can't be racist. It's not even
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
It's just I know Ellen Page, and Ellen Page isn't homophobic. Like,
Like, not even that Ellen Page is, I know a gay person. It's like, no, I know somebody who's okay with gay people. Therefore, by the transitory property endemic to all humans.
Just reaching a little hard there.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm almost not surprised to see behavior like this, but at the same time I am, because whatever you think of David Cage, he's become a really high-profile figure in the games industry. and his games do sell a lot, for better or worse. So to see this kind of behavior, especially in this day and age where you have, bigwigs falling left and right from sexual harassment scandals, to see this continue, and then to see him take a very antagonistic, approach to this, suing journalists, disavowing what he's done, even though there's pictures. It's all so strange, and I never took him to go that far with his mania, if you will.
Yeah, it kind of fits with what I see as the established profile for him, because he seems to me like an extremely principled person, somebody who's very, very confident in the opinions that he has, and very unshaken by any kind of debate against them or for them, for better or for worse. So I could see him, if he's the kind of person that believes this kind of photoshopping thing is okay, I could see him brazenly going about doing it and just having absolutely zero, restraint on it, because he's like, well, of course I should be able to do this. This is okay because some principle he holds. And he would just go headstrong with that. He kind of does the same thing with the games, where he kind of pushes one point of view. For better or for worse, he obviously believes very heavily in the point of view that he's pushing, to the point where it's just it's really forceful and out there. Yeah. So if by some twist of principle in his head, he finds this an acceptable thing, like he has the right to do this, then I would definitely see him just going hog wild with it.
Yeah.
Now, that isn't the only major court case going on, because, as we heard, the scene hacker, the guy who's been cracking most of the major de novo releases, Voxy, was arrested, I think by Bulgarian police?
By Bulgarian officials.
Yeah, so...
government officials.
I think one of the last things he did was crack the de novo out of Sonic Mania Plus, and then... poof.
Yeah.
He kind of got bopped by the cops.
Yeah, he made claims of it affecting the game, like performance and other stuff. There was signs actually affecting real customers of the game, of it actually affecting everyone. And since then, he's a few days after that, this happened, where he's been arrested by government and for cyber crimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of media crackdown going on, because something is going on with the EU or UK government, along with Sky, I think, and they're cracking down after the World Cup. They're really going ham on anything anti-piracy, and so I feel like this is another blowback from that they're really sick of people cracking things and pirates going rampant.
Yeah,
but I mean...
So do you think it's because of all those new media and privacy changes that this happened? Because, as far as I'm aware, no other high-profile group in the scene has really been targeted by any kind of lawsuit, and de novo's been being cracked for many years now.
I mean, It could just depend on where he's located. Perhaps they just went for the guy that was the most notorious for cracking the latest de novo, and he just happened to be in a place where they could grab him, because... I know there's CPY and Baldman and other crackers that are just virtually untouched, and I would imagine they're shaken at the very least from this.
Mm-hmm. Right. I was going to ask, because his website that hosted his hacking group, Revolt, was removed by the Bulgarian government, so if he was arrested, then what happened to the rest of the people from his hacking group, right? Because they're obviously under the radar, too. Now, they have their information, they have the site where they were... hosted. Maybe they don't have their personal information. Maybe they can't nail down where they live, or maybe they live in a place that is just...
where they'd have to be extradited.
Maybe has different laws. You wouldn't maybe have to expedite, but you'd have to, their country of residence has different privacy laws, like Halo was saying, and maybe they just can't get the evidence that they need to actually make an arrest just by way of what is and isn't accessible to them.
The amusing thing is that the day after he was arrested, there were a bunch of guides popping up on YouTube showing his method. And I think it was how to crack de novo 4.0. Not the latest de novo, but it was still a guide that was using his method.
Oh.
And YouTube just started nailing it with copyright claims.
Copyright claims? Well, it would be interesting to see the sources of these copyright claims, right? Where are they coming from? Entertainment publishing industries, or is it the governments are taking down certain things, or it's like who's behind
I don't
these
know the
things?
source of what's taking the videos down, but I know that a lot of people were re-uploading them to like Dailymotion and BitChute so that they could just stay up and people could use them.
That's interesting. I wonder if it's the people that are doing this and not people like outsiders kind of just interested in hacking and not people directly associated with Voxy who are he kind of told to get these videos out there and make sure they stay out there, because like before with Cage, I also see him as a deeply principled person. Like, look what he said. He said, "Sadly, I won't be able to do what I did anymore. I did what I did for you guys, and of course, because bloated software in our games shouldn't be allowed at all." So he's very distinctly pushing a principle he has here, and he says, maybe someone else can continue my fight. Maybe this is just his last, the package that explodes when he dies, quote unquote. You know what I mean? That old trope. He gets taken away and he tries to spread the information out there as much as possible to kind of incite people to take up the mantle. Because he does seem very passionate about this idea that bloatware in games is just not allowed.
Yeah, and especially with the case of the way that Denuvo is handled, it's really controversial because some games, it's whatever, and then sometimes you see games where it's like Rime and it's cranked up to 1,000,000 times as checks a second.
Yeah,
So-
and there was an Assassin's Creed Syndicate, I want to say?
Assassin's-
That was
No.
just...
The new Assassin's Creed or Odyssey.
Unit, or Odyssey,
I mean,
yes.
it had Denuvo,
Wait,
but
Odyssey is the one that's not released.
no, Odyssey.
Yeah, Odyssey's not out yet.
Wait,
Origins.
Origins.
Yeah.
No,
Origins,
that was
yeah.
that was crippled because of Ubisoft just going ham on DRM. Because
Yeah, it had
it was-
Right,
VM
right, right.
Protect, Uplay,
yeah, so it was
not
Uplay.
Steamworks.
No,
oh,
not Steamplay.
Denuvo.
It was Uplay and Denuvo working together in a virtual machine by VM Protect. So
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a combination of many different things. So maybe
so
that's
that
not
one,
going to
that one's
illustrate
just a
my
mess. But
yeah.
like, yeah, a lot of people are saying that. I mean, a lot of people are rightly saying that Denuvo sometimes has issues, but that's on the part of the developers for implementing it poorly. Like in the case of Rime, where the developer wanted to get back, quote unquote, at Denuvo, or wanted to show how Denuvo sucked, and so he cranked up the amount of checks Denuvo was doing to like some crazy amount, and so the game just runs horribly. But that's his fault. And then if you look at other games, a lot of people are claiming that Final Fantasy 15 had performance issues with Denuvo, but if you look at performance from like a cracked version, I believe that someone got their hands on, or I believe the the demo that came out before the game launched. If you compare the performance realistically, there's not much of a difference. Instead, the performance difference you do see is in loading screens, because Square Enix is smart and put the Denuvo checks within the loading screens. And so Denuvo does its checks whenever something's loading in and you're just watching a loading screen. So the loading screens might take a little longer, but then during actual gameplay, nothing's affected. And that's really the best implementation of Denuvo. So developers that put Denuvo where gameplay isn't happening, where it's kind of static, things are just loading, that's really the best way it's implemented. And when it is implemented that way, there's no real issues. And so I kind of feel that it would be in Denuvo's best interest to ensure that games that are using Denuvo had good implementations of it, because Denuvo, of course, has online checks at least once. And people are going to be against that. But if they can mitigate all of these other issues, implementation issues in particular, I feel that they could, in some ways, turn around their image, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like I wonder just how much power they would have over how their software is implemented. Maybe they could bake something into the code that limits what people could do with it. And so that it's like, all right, you can do this many checks in this small amount of time, but you can't do it during these sections of the gameplay, or it's like, we're limiting the checks to never occur when the CPU is taxed above 80%. So like it probably wouldn't be seen by the player or something like that. Like I wonder if there's anything creative they can do there, because they do have a huge issue with their image. And there's a huge backlash against Denuvo in general. And regardless of whether or not it works by implementation alone, and that if implemented correctly it's totally harmless, or if implemented incorrectly, it's absolutely terrible. Like, regardless of how much truth or falsehood there is to that, they should work on their image, because it's already out there and people are already kind of rallying against it.
I feel like no matter what, I mean, to begin with, the latest Denuvo has been cracked, basically. Regardless of if Voxy is around or not, it's been proven to be cracked, so it's not safe, and so investors are gonna waffle about it, because they're like, oh gosh, it's not really as safe as we think. And then you've got just the name Denuvo. A lot of people on GBAtemp, I think, are going to agree. When you say the word Denuvo, people get pissed automatically.
Yeah, it
Pretty
pretty much incite a flame war wherever it gets mentioned. Like, even if nobody's even commenting about how Denuvo is or isn't, somebody's going to come up and be like, oh god, Denuvo's atrocious. And then somebody else will be like, no, you're atrocious. And then this person goes, your mother! And then it just continues onward from that.
I mean, you can make a status update on GBAtemp that just says Denuvo, and I'm sure you would just get a buzzing group of angry people just screeching.
Get a warning.
Oh, I am on it right now.
Don't you dare say that ever again. I feel part of that it's because there's a lot of misinformation. People don't really understand how the program works. But I understand with horror stories like Rhyme or Sonic Mania, I think, had some Denuvo issues too. I could definitely see why it's hated. Maybe they just need to change their brand name.
I think that would be seen as something disingenuous and kind of trying to skirt the issue rather than anything substantial. People will look at that and say, like, oh, they're trying to get around as a different company instead of the one we know. It's like, that's nefarious. And
there we go again.
They're evil no matter what. Yeah. There's no saving them, because they either stay Denuvo and they're evil, or they change the name and they're evil.
I mean, if they improve how games function when it's implemented, Denuvo is implemented, I think they could still save their image. Like I said, there are people completely polarized on either side, as well as people in the middle who just kind of don't know. And the thing about Denuvo is, 99% of the people who are affected by it aren't going to know exactly what it's doing and why it's doing it, because the technicals are beyond that. So there's a degree of abstraction that has to come with anybody attempting to understand what Denuvo is. Like, I'm not a huge programmer, so when I look at Denuvo, I have to look at things like, how does it affect the CPU? When does it call to certain procedures? Not as granular as, the code that actually makes it up. So, the more abstraction that happens, the further away you get, and the more interpretation can come into the mix, and people kind of end up not understanding. And it's just kind of it naturally lends itself to controversy in that sense as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not the only controversial thing we're going to be talking about today, because next on our list
Segue
is... Yeah, I'm good at those. is Abstractism, a little game that kind of died already. Before we could even record the podcast, it was already yanked off of Steam. But basically, the gist with this is that this little game came up and cost about, I think it was like $1 or around so, and it was even on sale for like 50 cents. And so turns out it may or may not have had cryptocurrency miners, just that would install on your PC if you install the game.
That's right. They were mining, to their own admission, they were mining a Bitcoin called, or not, I shouldn't call it Bitcoin, they were mining a cryptocurrency called Monero coins. When somebody asked, they responded with this. They said, Bitcoin is outdated. We currently use Abstractism to mine only Monero coins. Abstractism does not mine any type of cryptocurrency, which Monero is. Just in case you want to Google that, it definitely is. Probably you are playing on high graphics settings because they take a bit of CPU and GPU power required for post-processing effects rendering. As far as I know, Abstractism is a 2D side-scroller.
Yeah. It doesn't require anything at all. The most it requires is like a 3.1 gigahertz processor.
Yeah, and they were saying things that also kind of triggered the people's senses of like, oh, maybe this is not good. When they were saying like, oh, it benefits you to leave the game running overnight so that you can farm some sort of achievement in the game or something like that. When it's like, well, that could easily be time used. It's like to just promote, users to run their machine and mine more cryptocurrency. And then they said, like, everyone who logs in with the game on Friday for all day gets a certain type of reward in the game. It's like, well, maybe they're just drawing from the cash all in one go and getting all the mined coins from there. So it's like, this is obviously something that's pretty sketchy already, and it doesn't help that they filled their entire game with just a whole bunch of memes. Just really bad memes. Really
Really
Not even quality.
Really out of date memes.
The dankness is not too high on these. It's pretty, yeah.
The dankometer is disappointed.
And I see some of these, there's like Pepe the Frog costing $4 real life dollars, and then Putin flipping off the camera costing $3.50. Like, are they nefarious, or are they taking the piss? I don't really understand what's going on here.
You thought paying for Fortnite dances was bad? Well, let me show you the next step in the evolution.
It is, but I found something much worse.
And the best part is, one of the achievements is literally just the letter F.
Yeah.
Drawn in MS Paint with a mouse, just like one blocky line, F.
And this sad little pathetic F is the best representation of the game now, because we don't know what happened, because the story's still developing, but for certain, it's been removed off of Steam. You can't get it anymore, so your Pepe the Frog meme dreams are dead, I'm sorry to admit.
Oh, dear.
But, it's gone, and we don't know if it was Steam taking off, because this goes back to, the adult game controversy with Steam, where they were just like, forget it, let everything through, so long as it's not illegal. And of course, a cryptocurrency miner is quite illegal.
Right, I just find that statement where they're like, no, we don't use it to mine cryptocurrency, we use it to mine cryptocurrency, to be completely bizarre. They
either have no idea what they're doing.
Like,
yeah.
They clearly have no grasp on the English language. You can see on their Steam page. It's a broken mess of awkwardly chopped together Google Translate English.
what do you think these guys are from?
Russia, probably.
Really?
They are Russian.
Really?
I feel like anything I say would be inherently racist by way of the nature of these people.
Yeah.
Like, no country's going to lay claim to these guys like, yeah, sure, well, they're from here.
Yeah, the game is detected by several antivirus programs like malware, for example, as a virus. Like it's
Hitman
a
Pro
Bitcoin
as well.
mine and Hitman Pro, yeah, like the Steam service exe for the game and the launch for the game are detected as a miner.
Well, yeah, one of them is malware. The Abstractism launcher is malware. The Steam Service EXE is Trojan. These are both in the Steam Apps common Abstractism folders. So when it says Steam Service EXE, I don't think that's anything put out by Steam itself.
Yeah,
it's just something they named. So that's probably notable. But yeah, it's not looking too great.
Even Windows Defender sees it as a virus.
Yeah, nobody wants to trust this. Not even Windows Defender.
When Windows Defender is flagging you, I think that's...
that's a sign to call it
stop,
quits.
Buddy. Windows Defender's actually gotten quite good recently, though.
Yeah, I use Windows Defender, and it's pretty okay, actually. Then again, I don't go anywhere illicit, so I don't, maybe it's just had no stress tests put to it, but,
You gotta go on shitty sites like GBAtemp for it to really trigger.
Oh God, I would never ever go to a site like GBA. How do you even mention that in this family-friendly podcast? Oh God.
Tempcast, relation, I swear.
What was that thing that T-Hug put out? It was somebody got a message banned off a forum for mentioning GBAtemp for the
It was
for the purpose
GameFAX.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
He's been dealing with that for a while. Where, one time they're like, I think he linked to one of the mag staff linked to the Mario Galaxy review, or I'm sorry, Mario Odyssey review that I did.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's a ROM site, how dare you?
It's
and
not,
then I think
and it hasn't
Thug
been
got
since...
slapped again for linking it when a thread came up saying, what are some great news sites? And he's like, oh, GBAtemp has great news. And then they're like, no. ROM site.
My God.
Which is hilarious because I guess these moderators are living in circa 2002 because GBAtemp posted ROMs for like a half a second once.
And also Extractism is showing fake TF2 items as well. So that's another thing.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
geez.
It is trying to get that sweet money. Although if you think about it, I would have expected them to be trying to sell like Fortnite items. TF2 is a bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Fortnite's
that's
a
an
different
odd
launcher
thing. I mean,
entirely.
Their memes are dated. Their game scamming is dated.
I think Meteor is right. Someone took a massive stool on everyone.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Did I say this thing that you just said? I'm not sure I said. I categorically deny having ever.
Don't forget to check our blooper reel after the show.
Definitely.
Oh, for sakes.
Okay.
So moving on to like positive and upbeat news, because we've been like dredged in all this mired controversy.
God, that was heavy.
We've got some
Yeah.
heavy rain.
Oh.
Yeah, we should rein ourselves in with all this heavy talk.
I'm
Oh
done.
gosh, the
welcome.
egg timer's broken, guys.
Yeah, I have to
We
substitute.
can't.
I am the egg substitute to Luna's egg timer. That doesn't make
Oh
sense.
boy. So,
Anyway.
in terms of happier news, we've got
Let me die.
hashtag Let My Die, which is basically just a version of Repatched, which lets you. It's pretty awesome. If you're on 3.60, which is the original hackable firmware, or if you're on 3.65, which is the latest one that you can get that has ENSO, which is the untethered hack, you can play later firmware games on those old firmwares, so it's basically a little bypass.
Yeah, so the thing with NoNP-DRM is that it dumped games completely encrypted as they were before, right? Like the e-boot is still encrypted and untouched. So what they do to work around that and let you play the game with this dump is create a fake license for it, and they store that in a separate file, in a separate drive as well on the thing, which is interesting. But that's basically how that runs. And NoNP-DRM is pretty good because it gives you access to, a lot of the internals that you wouldn't have with just a MyDump. And it's also more reliable as far as I understand. It's been the preferred version for a long time, but as the e-boot hasn't been decrypted because it's untouched, you can't actually go in there and edit the required firmware. So one of the limitations of that being is if a game was put out to require a certain firmware that's above 3.60 or 3.65, depending on what you're on, you wouldn't be able to play it because you can't decrypt the e-boot. With Let My Die, it does decrypt the e-boot, and it does modify the stuff in there. How it does that exactly, I don't remember, but as far as I know, that's the key to letting you do this. So it basically goes into the e-boot and says, instead of, because as far as I know, it's just a little line of code, a little toggle. It says, instead of requiring 3.65 and above, how about you instead require 3.60? And the game goes, okay, and gives you a thumbs up and lets you play it. So that's basically just how that works, as far as I know. And somebody's going to correct me.
It sort of sounds like the no whitelist blacklisting that lets you play games on a PSTV. They not like
Right.
Tycho, for example, because for some reason, even though the game's played with buttons, because they made the touchscreen on the Vita to move the thing, sometimes they locked it only to the Vita.
Yeah, the same thing happened with Danganronpa 1 and 2, where it really had no touchscreen things that I'm aware of, but they still locked it to Vita only, was not playable on the PlayStation TV.
Yeah, that's weird because I'm actually playing Danganronpa 1 on the Vita right now, and it does actually integrate a lot of touchscreen things that are almost kind of preferable. In the sense of like the bullet time argument battles, it uses a lot of the front touchscreen and the back touchscreen to kind of navigate around. And it is actually quicker and more accurate because if you use the thumbstick to aim the reticle yourself, it kind of moves and wobbles on its own, and it's a little bit slower than you can just, point and click. But the thing is, you can move the reticle with the thumbstick. So you can actually complete the entire game with the sticks alone and totally ignore all the touch features. So, yeah, it does implement touch to a very nice degree, but it's also fully completable without it, and that's actually kind of how I play it, so.
Right, and it's amusing because it was originally a PSP game, so the touchscreen stuff was added way after the fact.
That's right, it was. I didn't even think of that. That is silly.
But now all of our... You might have been, leaving your Vita in the dust, but this is the prime time to go back out and grab it and just start playing all those weeby visual novels that have been just hammering the system.
And started
Yeah,
Valorant.
Or if you... yeah, if you don't have a Switch yet, this is a prime time to have a portable version of Stardew as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, Stardew Valley came out on this one before excuse me, not Sultan Sanctuary came out on this thing before it came out on Switch. Obviously, that's coming out in the future.
A long time.
Yeah, unfortunately, Sultan Sanctuary requires 3.63, which meant it couldn't be run on 3.60 for the longest time. But with this new Let My Die, not exactly a problem anymore.
So go out there and play all these games and become a weeb. One of us.
One of us.
Play all the visual novels in the world. Just play them all. Just play all of them. Even if they're in just Japanese, just play them.
Even if you're a burly man, play all those Otome visual novels. Become the pretty princess.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on the PlayStation front, that's not the only PlayStation hacky emulation news we've got, because the emulator RPCS3, remember that acronym?
Yeah, I'm not going to. It's RPCS3, not RCP. What did you say? Maybe you said it correctly.
RPCS3. S3.
Yes.
You got it.
So they've had a major update. They've been really just slamming the updates out, hitting it out of the park lately. Their emulator was like pretty nothing, and in the last year they've been really just going all out to get everything fixed. And as of their last update, they rewrote the code for the emulator that handles MSAA.
Yep. They totally rewrote that code, and it fixed like a ton of game-breaking issues. For example, like some games were displaying in squished half-length vision, so like it had the full picture just squished down to half of the screen while the rest of it was black, which was technically playable, but it looked ugly as heck. And there were some instances where only a quarter of the screen was shown at one time. Not squished or stretched or anything, just a quarter of a screen. And that obviously made a lot of games completely unplayable. They've also seen some pretty high frame rate advancements in a lot of games that used to be running, but now they're, running in a more playable state, which is nice. I saw Tales of Vesperia in there as one of their examples, and I squeaked a little bit because, oh yeah, Tales of Vesperia. But
that would be a lot more exciting if the PC port wasn't incoming soon.
Yeah, seriously. But you know me, anytime I see Tales of anything, I'd get a little happy inside, regardless of situation or context, so, yeah.
And there's 2 games that they added. I think they added a few more, but they're 2 major games they were talking about that they added to their fully playable and completable list was the first Sly Cooper game, and Dynasty Warriors Gundam.
Which is a game I had no idea existed until I watched the video they put out. That's fantastic.
There's a Dynasty Warriors everything.
Yep.
Really?
So that's pretty exciting. I mean, you've seen all these new emulators just really pop up and just be so great. You've got Cemu, you've got Citra.
Oh, yeah.
Even the 360 emulator's been kind of plugging along after a lot of hiatuses and weird stuff.
Yeah.
The only one we're really not seeing any improvements on is a PS2 emulator, which is RPCS2.
That emulator is still pretty good, though.
Yeah, I thought that was in a pretty solid state already.
I think in very strict emulation circles, they consider it to be coded badly, and there's been a few bounties I've seen out there for people asking for a recoded PS2 emulator. And there's some, like, little projects that are just starting out to really try and be an accurate one. I think the games on that emulator play well, but it's not, like, fully accurate. And, a lot of people always strive to get that 100% real-life accuracy down.
Yeah, I know that sound is something that's hard to get right. I wonder if that's one of the things that just isn't coming together.
Yeah, if I recall from my time playing that emulator, the sound does have some issues.
You use emulators? You scoundrel!
Shut up.
How dare you? That's tacit to...
A GBAtemp user has never used emulators, are you kidding me?
How could we possibly condone this kind of...
Yeah, it has some issues with Crash to Insanity. No, it's really weird, that game. The 360 emulator can't play it. Neither can the PS2 emulator correctly. It has really weird graphical issues. Like, it's completely unplayable.
And that's why a lot of people hang on to the older systems purely because, not because of anything, I mean, some people hold on to it because they're CRT bubble, they really love that style. But a lot of, especially with the original Xbox, you just can't emulate those games yet.
There is progress with it, like Jet Set Radio Future can be kind of emulated now, but that's like one of like many games.
Yeah.
Right.
As far as the original Xbox goes, didn't some company put out an HDMI cable for it recently?
Yeah, Hyperkin is going to be bringing out a supposedly official, like licensed by Xbox official HDMI
Really?
converter cable.
I wonder
Which
how
is,
that's
I mean,
gonna go. Yeah.
they've already existed for a while. There's plenty of cables you can get, but they're all like third party or they're really old and discontinued.
Microsoft is not a technologically incompetent company, right? So if they get the right people involved with this development of this cable, it should turn out fairly well. Like there are some instances where, some console reproducers will get permission from Sega to remake the Mega Drive and then it comes out terrible and people are like, "Oh geez, what happened there?" But I feel like it's going to be different with a company like Microsoft, especially when it comes to, technology and hardware, that kind of thing.
Though
It's Microsoft.
It doesn't mean Microsoft working on it though. It's Hyperkin. I'm assuming they'll sign
Yeah.
off on
Yeah,
it.
but they just have the blessing of Microsoft. But I mean, Hyperkin's known to put out good stuff, and Microsoft is showing that they really care about the original Xbox.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's very sad, really, to say you've got Retrobit when they aren't too great. Like I've got the USB Sega Sound controller they have, and mine's modded so much it's not even recognizable because everything felt horrible when I got it. Everything was too stiff. Like the D-pad was stiff.
Oh yeah,
The D-pad
I
was,
own that same controller.
and like I actually opened it and it's like there's like 3 cables just soldered onto the board. It's not even
It's
secured.
a very shaky. You can hear it rattling apart.
Yeah, like
Whoa.
I've got an official thing saying everything inside of it now, like a proper case and membranes, everything. It's
But for the most part, Hyperkin tends to do on the level stuff.
yeah.
But you do sometimes just get that bad dice roll and you get a trashy Sega controller.
No, that's Retrobit.
Oh, Retrobit's even worse.
Yeah, it's so sad that they're making loads of new accessories for the Dreamcast and like Sega side controllers and the Mega Drive controller, and they're not going to be good. They're going to be exactly the same as the ones I've got right now, which is sad.
It's interesting
really.
just how many third-party controllers turn out terrible in terms of build quality and function. Like, you'd think, especially in terms of the D-pad, like, you'd think
Yeah.
people could get that right most of the time with so many examples of D-pads done well, but, I wonder if it's a matter of certain methods of making a D-pad being copywritten, and people can't really copyrighted rather.
Yeah.
If I could just have the Vita D-pad on everything, I could die happy.
Yeah,
It
could be a case of the membrane being too small. Like with the Hori controller I got right here in front of me, it's like got weird problems with diagonals. It just doesn't work. And I think it's probably because it's not wireless. It's wireless, obviously, but I think it's the membrane. It's way too small for the D-pad.
Yeah, it's
weird.
very odd that so many controls. I mean, a lot of them can be cheap as well. I mean, Hori tends to be way expensive, but
Yeah.
there's so many. They're very cheap feeling, and I mean, I'm pretty sure the Hyperkin Sega controller is like $15 max.
Oh, wow.
So you can expect some like good old cost cutting measures there.
Yeah, what Ray was saying about the membrane being too small for the D-pad, that kind of speaks to prefab parts and not custom-made parts. Like, they kind of just searched the internet and looked for stock standard parts and were like, we'll throw that into a controller, why not? And kind of just...
No, it's funny. It's like the board the board was actually there's actually bits out of the board for the membrane to go into, and that doesn't help at all. It just keeps it in place. it's just too small.
Weird.
Because comparing it to a SNES D-pad membrane, it goes around it, and this one goes on top of the D-pad. Like just like sort of like I don't know, sort of like a 360 D-pad.
The cursed words. 360
Yeah.
D-pad.
Oh,
At least it's not the Duke D-pad.
that's the holy king of trash.
or what's the D-pad I can think of? The Model 1 Sega Saturn D-pad.
Yeah, well, sometimes they just cheap out on materials and they kind of They kind of just put out a cheap controller. It's like, well, you get what you buy.
Like,
Oh, you know who didn't cheap out?
Disney, when they acquired
Oh!
Yeah, I set that up
Smooth.
deliberately. Am I learning? Oh boy.
that segue.
Disney bought 20th Century Fox for $71.3 billion, and I'm putting my pinky to my mouth right now, dollars. So that's a thing. One more conglomerate under the big umbrella that is Disney.
They're crying because they could have
We
gotten
will all
it
be
cheaper.
Disney soon.
Yeah, and everyone's crying because Fox News is still alive.
Jeez.
So they basically got most, if not all, of Fox's properties. I think the only things in there that they didn't get were Fox Sports because they already own ESPN and there's some sort of monopoly deal on that, so they had to shove that back. And Fox News they're keeping.
Are they? I thought they were just spinning off the entire television.
No, they're holding on to Fox News.
Weird.
I can hear some of you out there groaning upsettedly.
So now anything that comes out of Fox News is also kind of
Disney gospel.
sideways coming out of the mouth of Disney because they now own Fox News.
That's gonna be
No,
weird.
the only thing they don't own is Fox News. They own everything else. It's just Fox News is... Fox is still keeping that. It's not dying or anything.
Okay, so
maybe
so
sure.
they're like splitting the television thing in half. They're taking most of it, but then leaving sports and Fox News to Fox.
Most cable
Yes.
packages split the TV up into pieces. It's nothing new.
So this deal was bought for a lot more than was originally expected. It was under $50 billion originally, and then of course Comcast came into that picture, and they're like, we want to buy them too. So they upped the bid. Then Disney had to up their bid. Comcast ended up pulling out. I don't remember the exact reason. I think it might have been antitrust, or it might have been because they wanted to go after Sky in Europe instead. But for whatever reason, Comcast pulled out, and then Disney was allowed to complete that merger. And from the beginning, Comcast was always coming in as hostile. The board of Fox wanted Disney to own the properties, and Disney and Fox were already in talks, and it was pretty clear that they would pass regulation anyways, and so, people wanted the Disney-Fox deal to go through, and not the Comcast one. But Comcast was, of course, offering a lot more money.
I'm curious what you guys think. Would you have preferred it to land in NBC Universal Comcast, or are you happy with like Simpsons and all that and Fox?
No, it's good in Disney because Disney's huge, but Comcast is even bigger. And
well, the thing is, Disney is huge, but Comcast is in direct opposition with Fox. And if Comcast gets more control, Comcast is also, providing an internet service to people, and it's just like, it's a little too, I feel like the antitrust call, if it was that prevented them from buying it, was probably on the right track. Like, it's a little too much to give Comcast that, whereas Disney, sure, they own just oodles of things, but as far as what they do and kind of their business interests, it's not nearly as overwhelmingly one-sided as it would be if Comcast sucked up yet another, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's...
I'm saying it poorly.
I don't know if it's specifically Comcast being a broadband provider and an entertainment provider, because they already own NBC and Universal Studios. And if you look at the deal between AT&T and Warner Brothers, that one passed regulation. And the entire rationale in that AT&T Warner Brothers decision was that Comcast was basically the company that AT&T and Warner Brothers wanted to merge and become. And so if Comcast was allowed to do it, they should be allowed to do it. And so you're seeing a lot of broadband providers or internet service providers nowadays trying to get more media companies into their circle, because when they can provide direct content to their own customers, like kind of end to end, people are buying internet from them and they're buying their entertainment from them. They stand to make a lot of money, and the big reasoning behind that is to go up against heavyweights like Google and Amazon in content, in providing content.
And this also means that Disney now owns the majority share in Hulu as well?
Yes. And I know Disney wanted to, for the longest time, create their own subscription
network
video service.
Network subscription, yeah.
Yeah, like right now they provide a lot of shows on Netflix, and they have most of their movie repertoire on Netflix. So it'll be interesting. Maybe they'll pull it and throw everything into Hulu. Who knows?
It's very interesting how competition is going around right now.
Yeah.
Because you've got DC's kind of new thing. I know DC, you can laugh, but it's just showing that all these content owners are just spinning off their own streaming services. And Netflix isn't the only cat in town anymore.
Yeah. Like, again, the big thing is that they're trying to band together to go up against Google, Amazon, in some senses Apple, big internet companies, which, like, you see how YouTube's killing off a lot of cable networks nowadays. So the big cable networks are trying to just consolidate to protect themselves from that and compete.
And I mean, more competition is always, or pretty much always going to be a good thing. So, I mean, in that sense, good that they're going up against these people. But, at the same time, I don't know, Comcast, I feel like there's a lot of room for, it's not a fully developed thought, but I feel like there's a lot of room for exploitation now that the
net neutrality.
That's the one, thank you. How did I forget? Now the net neutrality laws have been revoked in pretty much everywhere. If they accrue this kind of thing and control the streamline of data from beginning to end, they can box out unfairly a lot of their competition that way, which is very anti-competitor, so.
And I mean, it had to go. Fox had to sell it to Disney because, The Simpsons predicted it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, okay. Predicting that Disney is going to buy something big isn't really that prophetic anymore. Like, I feel like that's kind of just expected.
That's true, but, you gotta give it to them for that.
Yeah, seriously. They also predicted that Trump would be president, so, they get extra points there.
Matt Groening, what are you trying to tell us?
Yeah, really. He's from the future. He tried to warn us. We didn't listen.
So onwards to our next topic, which is, if you're like me, you're a fan of Animal Crossing, and it's gonna be a little wound to your heart where, Amiibo Festival still is festering. But, the co-director for Animal Crossing New Leaf, as of today, has departed, Nintendo.
Right.
So that's leaving them a bit in the lurch, especially when you keep hearing all the buzz that, there's an Animal Crossing game in development, but is there really? Maybe our fate is just doomed to more Pocket Camp updates.
Maybe Animal Crossing the road at this point. To get to the other side. It's a death, but okay.
The series died, just like
Animal
a joke.
Crossing.
Yeah, seriously. I've never been a huge fan of it, but I know it does have its huge fans out there, and
yeah.
I guess we have to look at it from this perspective. Like, he may be leaving Nintendo, but maybe he's going on to work with Nintendo in his own independent company. Maybe it's gotten big enough that he's kind of setting out on his own, and he's still going to have close ties with Nintendo as a second-party developer, kind of like Game Freak, maybe?
He sees the future, and the future is pachinko.
No!
He's going over to Konami, the dark side.
An interesting thought popped into my mind. You know how we're getting the Let's Go Pokemon games, where it's like all Pokemon Go style, right? You think we'll, like, whatever new Animal Crossing is ever gonna come out, you think it's gonna be like a mobile fair to try and get all those mobile players?
Halo, listen, I'm going to be taping your mouth shut and cutting that out of the podcast because you're not giving Nintendo any ideas.
We're going to get to this part of the pod. Yeah, that's a little too real to say out loud. We're going to get to this part of the podcast, and it's going to be like, you're going to say, a weird thought came into my mind, and it's just going to be 50 seconds of redacted. And then at the end, when it finally fades back to audio, we're going to be like, oh, Halo, you sick freak. How could you think that? And with those goats? Oh, my God. And then
that
everyone will think you're a pervert.
Right there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know we're jumping ship a little bit on this, but there was an interesting thing going back to Konami where... Did you guys hear about the PT thing where the kid made his little PC remake?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And did you hear Konami's official response to that?
No, I know they took it down, but what did they say?
Apparently one of the Konami execs, this is all by the kid that got the game and had the takedown notice, so this is what he officially had to say about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but he said something along the lines that it inspired Konami to make actual video games again.
What?
What?
Wait a minute. So he said that came from Konami? They're like, you've inspired us to make this kind of game again, and that's the reason they took it down? So they basically came to this guy and they're like, my God, you're an inspiration. Forget our gigantic repository of professional developers that we completely ignore. You're the reason we're going to start making games again. Also, for your trouble, we're going to forcibly take down your work. Yeah. That is such an inspiration to us. Okay, well, I mean, only from Konami, am I right?
Yeah,
I think the future is pachinko.
Future is pachinko. I think as part of that statement, I think they also offered him an internship, if I read that correctly.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, that's a consolidation prize. But then again, the working environment at Konami has been under scrutiny for a long time, and it's
like, do you want an internship at
Yeah,
Konami?
It's like,
No, Konami's
want to enter the
guys.
belly of this beast.
Shh, Konami's the future. It's the future. The future is here. And it's in pachinko.
You know what? The apocalypse is also the future, technically speaking. So, ipso facto.
Metal Gear Survive predicts... No, let's not go there.
Oh no, Halo, not another one of your weird thoughts. Redacted.
Yeah.
See, we'll know when we reach the boiling point when I fall off my stool again.
Yeah,
really. Then it just comes full circle, proving time is cyclical.
Continuing on with immense disappointments. Yooka-Laylee is going to be in Brawlout. It's not the Banjo-Kazooie and Smash that we've been crying for years, but it's an attempt.
Yeah, I watched the trailer they put out, and it's cute. Like, So the thing with me is, Brawlout doesn't really look like a great game to me. Like, there have been quite a few Smash clones varying greatly in their quality, but as far as Brawlout goes, for as much press as it's getting, I don't know, I find it very awkward and weird. Like, I was actually looking at the footage of gameplay and trying to pin down, because I've felt this way for a while, trying to pin down what about it made me feel so uncomfortable, and it's that the acceleration of the characters, I think, this is my theory, I came up with this like an hour ago, the acceleration of the character's center of mass doesn't match the acceleration of the character's movements and their attacks. For example, a punch will wind up before the center of mass starts moving, which can, sometimes work, but then, like, it'll go forward and complete, like, after the center of mass stops moving, and it feels so disjointed, like none of the body parts are working in synergy, and you don't get that impactful feeling you get in Smash, where you can kind of trace the flow of motion all the way from a character's foot to their hand, in one fell swoop, just bam, and it feels really natural and punchy. With Brawlout, it feels very loose and jerky, and like the limbs are working on a separate animation rig than everything else, and I don't know, it's just all sorts of weird. But the thing is, with Yooka-Laylee in there, I mean, it looks cute. It looks like they did it out of passion. They're just like, I like these characters. Maybe I really like the game Yooka-Laylee. I don't know.
It's a really interesting concept, at the very least.
And they've got the dude from Guacamelee and Hyper Light Drifter as well, which is cute. Yeah. You're getting a little indie fighter game, and I mean...
It's kind of cute. Like the characters are, like, in this quote-unquote indie sphere that you're like, yeah, these are, like, markedly indie. Just putting them all in one game.
Yeah.
So does it play a lot like Smash? Is it trying to be that way? I'm looking at the gameplay. It seems that way.
Right now. I see tilts, I see smashes, I see edge guarding, I see up Bs, and that's relatively Smash, as far as I can tell. Yeah. It's got some unique quirks to it. Like, I think one character spawning a platform underneath another character to kind of hold them in place, which I thought was really interesting, if it weren't so jank. But, the concept on its own is interesting. But the thing is, if it were just an indie Smash, like a low-budget, kind of wonky, but cute and charming Smash, I would think, that's got its niche. But the thing is, we kind of already have indie Smash, at least in my eyes, in the game Rivals of Aether, which looks like it plays quite a bit better. It doesn't look quite as high fidelity, but it looks much tighter and cuter and just like a better game in general. So I'm kind of a little disappointed that it doesn't get the same kind of attention as Brawlout, which kind of looks on paper like it's maybe an inferior type of deal going on. I don't want to jump to conclusions. I haven't played it. I haven't even played Rivals of Aether. This is just going on looks alone, but I get the feeling that, Rivals of Aether is kind of languishing in the back as a really shiny gem, while Brawlout is coming out like, oh, it's quirky and kind of nice and maybe fun for an afternoon of like, oh, this isn't maybe the best balance, but it's fun.
Yeah, and then Smash Bros. Ultimate's just gonna come in and steamroll it into oblivion, and then we'll never hear the name again.
Oh, you think so?
Who knows?
I don't think
Who
it's
knows?
going to arrive to any sort of... I think Smash Bros. Ultimate is going to fly completely under the radar. When's the last time somebody really cared about a Smash game? Am I right? It's never been a really popular franchise. I just can't see it sweeping the likes of Brawlout out of the picture.
Is this sarcasm?
What? No. Who put that there? I didn't. Certainly not.
Hey, you never know. There might be like a Hat in Time to Odyssey, Brawlout to actual Smash.
Oh my
I'll
goodness,
have
I
you
would
know
be so
that
sad.
all 7 people on the Wii U that played Smash Brothers are angry at you. All 7 of them.
I played a lot of Smash
Hey.
Brothers on the 3DS, and it's fantastic.
It is. It's a shame that nobody owned a Wii U.
Yeah.
Smash 4 on 3DS was a ploy to get people to buy new 3DSs after they break their circle pad.
Conspiracy.
That's all it was.
I think the lack of a C-stick is a bigger influencer to buy a new 3DS, honestly.
The best part about the Wii U Smash 4 is mods. Just modding the whole entire game.
Oh yeah, there are mods for the 3DS version as well. I haven't
Yeah.
played with any of them, but there are.
Yeah.
It's a fun community.
It is.
Yeah. Wasn't there a Smash clone announced at EVO last year? Literally just looked like Smash. Like, had everything the same, like, just literally, that was literally just Marth from Melee. Literally, the exact same animations, everything, were just direct clone.
I mean, a lot of people are cloning stuff these days.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called, but it wasn't really anything special. So,
Listen, there's only one thing you need to clone today, and that's pachinko. That is the future.
I think we've
Pachinko.
identified the Konami plant in our midst. I think we finally nailed it down.
So
Pachinko
first we
and-
lost Luna because she made too many jokes with her egg timer, and now Halo's just gone a bit too far with the pachinko. So we look forward to having a nice replacement next time.
Yeah.
Pachinko and Battle Royale games are a hot new thing.
Oh gosh.
Oh, Battle Royale.
Battle Royale
Good Lord.
pachinko. Fortnite
The
pachinko.
E3 game show was just...
yeah.
Oh, yeah, oh god.
I want to see it now. I want to see someone make that now for Fortnite pachinko. I just want to see it now.
And I'm gonna be ill for just a second here. Don't worry about me. If you hear retching noises, don't worry, it's because I'm retching.
Now, there's not many things that are better than a pachinko machine, but I think we can all agree on the one thing that just will absolutely thrash a pachinko machine any day, and that's a Hat in Time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's kind
Come
of
on
not a fair
Switch.
comparison. A Hat in Time is, it could
Please.
never come on Switch. It would just destroy Super Mario Odyssey. It would just be all over for it then. Well, granted, it's
Makes
already
me
made its
sad.
sales, but... Oh, Hat in Time is great. So Hat in Time is getting DLC and a co-op mode. Is that right?
Yeah,
Co-op
and it's
mode.
just hit its 500,000 copies sold throughout PC, PS4, and Xbox One.
Damn,
Sorry, Switch
nice.
owners.
Dang.
But yeah, there's an online co-op mode that's out soon for release. It might already be out. I'm not certain. I think it's out soon though. And some little DLC content as well. So that's definitely something to look forward to. And I mean, I would recommend that game any day of the week.
Oh, absolutely. I was iffy on buying it. I was kind of, looking at it, I was like, oh, it's cute, but I'm maybe not that much into platformers. And Luna was like, if you don't buy it, I'm going to buy it for you. I'm like, no, okay, I'll buy it. So I ended up playing it, and I was like, oh my god, this is phenomenal. Like, I would have easily spent double this amount of money for this amount of fun that I got. And the fact that it's getting a co-op mode and more DLC later, and the fact that the modding is just way open for modders to submit custom levels and custom packages, custom hats. It's just like, and it's so easy to access in the game too. Like it's just built right around all that, and it's, oh gosh, Hat in Time is just so good.
We could go on forever how good that game is. I think every single one of us agree just how perfect it was and how many times over it just trounces Odyssey.
Seriously.
everyone that's listening there. Everyone that's listening to this podcast, just play Hat in Time. Stop listening to us. Go and buy Hat in Time and play it.
Buy Hat in Time, play it while listening to us. It was a win-win.
Yeah.
Just go and play it, please.
Yes.
You got
really
2
should.
days.
You know, all
2 days
hyperbole
since recording.
aside.
Yeah, 2 days after recording this podcast. If it's not up by then, you know, the good old Humble Bundle, right?
Ooh, go for it, everybody. You need that game. It's so well paced. It's so fluid and tactile in its motions. It's incredibly responsive, unlike Super Mario Odyssey. It's incredibly varied with its gameplay. It keeps up the pacing so nicely while still being so varied. Like, it keeps introducing new concepts, and it never lets you dip to a point where you're like, maybe I could quit here. Like, I'm kind of reaching a lull. It's just like, bam, no, you got so much more. It's like, look, every time, every step, it opens a door and shows you this beautiful garden on the other side. Like, don't you want to frolic in that? And you say to yourself, yes, I do. Hat in Time, actually. And then you just go like that until the end of the game happens, and you get sad that there's no more, and then happy that there are mods. So it's just a great time all around.
Yeah, people remade Mario Sunshine levels in Hat in Time, and it's amazing.
That's right, I played that.
Alright, guys, 1 second. I'm gonna need to take a break for a second. I'll be right back, alright? Sorry.
Sure.
Oh dear.
So I guess we cut around
Carry
this?
on with that, mate?
So,
carry on without her?
like, yeah, that's why.
Granted, I mean, we could edit all around this, so it could be either way. Or we could just gab about nothing in particular, I suppose? So what has everyone been playing recently?
I'll tell you what I've not been playing.
What haven't you been playing?
Octopath Traveler.
Why haven't you been playing it? I thought you were kind of excited for that game.
I was. I had fun, and then like all of a sudden, I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. It's the structure. It's the way it's structured. It just drags on you.
You just had one of those moments when you wake up and you realize you're in a terrible relationship, and you're like, Octopath, it's not you, it's me. I just can't do this anymore.
It's like, it has brilliant gameplay. I like it, but then the way it's structured feels so tiresome. It's like a game that's properly structured, properly paced. You know, you don't really notice the structure behind it. So, like, of course, most games will be like, you have some bit of story, maybe something else, and then some dungeon where it's just all gameplay. So it alternates between gameplay, story.
Right.
Octopath has this one way of presenting everything, where basically, there's 4 chapters for each of the 8 characters. Each chapter plays out exactly the same. You go into town, you get a little story, and you do a couple things with your path actions, and then you go into a dungeon, and you fight a boss at the end. And it's like that for every single chapter and every single story. And so that's 8 times 4. 32 chapters that all play out exactly the same. And because it's all named, right? It's like, this character, chapter 1.
Yeah. It just further like, cements the delineation between these things.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
kind of
like
makes you realize even more just how structured and, you know, samey everything ends up being.
Yeah. So what have you guys been playing?
I've been playing WarioWare Gold.
Oh, nice.
Is that the new one that just came out?
Yep.
Yeah.
How is it?
Really fun. Really short, but really, really fun.
Short?
Yeah, it's WarioWare, so it's going to be really short.
Yeah, micro games.
It's so much fun.
It does look like a lot of fun.
I wouldn't pay the full price for it though, but it's so good.
I've actually never played a WarioWare game before. I know there's a huge audience behind it, and when I see it, I really like that kind of quirky action to it, you know, that it's got.
Yeah, it's like little 5-second micro games.
Yeah, a guy drinks a glass of water and then suddenly sprouts hair all over himself from his head to his beard to his nose in a wiggly fashion. Like, that's the kind of absurd that really floats my boat, but I don't know, it's just never, it doesn't really kind of scratch the itch of the kind of video game that I want, something that takes a system I can really dig my teeth into for a long time and get really deep into, rather than a bunch of smaller systems that are like quirky and good for a short thing. But, you know, I don't know, maybe if it comes to the point where I just don't have anything else to play, I'd be like, you know what, let's give WarioWare Gold a shot, because again, it doesn't look like a bad game.
it's also fully voiced. The whole entire game is voiced, and it's weird.
I mean, how much talking is there?
Quite a bit from Mario. Quite a bit from Mario, of course, because he's the main character.
Wait, so like Wario's like fully voiced as well?
Yeah, every single character.
Oh, that sounds really strange.
Every single character is fully voiced.
That's
I can get like
I-
the other characters which you only see in the WarioWare games, but it's Wario. It's like you've seen him in many places. He doesn't talk. You know.
He does.
Yeah,
It
he really
doesn't.
just kind of wah.
Yeah.
So is that Charles Martinet?
It is
I
Charles
don't-
Martinet. He does all four.
I don't
Nah,
think
nice.
it's not. I don't think it's Charles Martinet in Gold.
Not in this one.
Not in
No.
gold. Really?
I think it's a different voice actor.
Perhaps he's too
odd, then.
expensive to get for the entirety of a fully voiced WarioWare game.
Yeah.
No,
They-
they keep him in the basement. You know, they don't pay him.
Oh, but
$1
he's
$1
such
million
a sweet
a
man.
while.
They feed him like table scraps.
Oh no! I just want to hug him though. Oh, Charles Martinet, why?
He's so cool of a dude. I saw him at E3 once, and I stood, like, within a few feet of his presence, and I just saw a bunch of these, like, developer team people. They had their kids in there, and I don't think they were supposed to, but they were in there anyway. And all these kids just ran up to the dude, and they're like, "Can we take a picture?" And he's like, "Absolutely!" And just like all these kids were watching and staring at wonder at this just lovely man just posing with them and doing the little
Yeah.
Mario voice and just being utterly sweet.
He is just the
Yeah.
most absolute sweetheart. Like, I remember seeing a joke tweet that somebody sent to him, like, do you think asking him in a, like a Ask Me Anything or something like that, he was like, do you think Waluigi is gay, and if so, does he have someone who loves him? And Charles Martinet just very, very genuinely responded something like, I've never actually thought about it, and I don't really think it's my business what he's into, but I really hope somebody loves him too. I'm sure he does. I really hope someone loves you too. And I was just like, this man is the sweetest thing on the face of the planet.
Oh, okay, never mind. It is Charles Martinet.
Okay, our
Oh,
daily
nice.
cinnamon roll
Oh,
has been fulfilled.
huzzah. All the feel good after the talks of drama and and jail time, and it's just like, oh, but Charles Martinet, we all love him.
Yeah. I like his little have you seen those little video monitors they set up in like the malls where they have, I don't know if it's Charles, but they have someone do a Mario voice while it's like they motion capture the face, so it looks like the character's talking, and like a bunch of kids just play along. Like, do you know Disney, those like that Crash exhibit, like Crash from Finding Nemo?
Oh,
Have you ever been to?
sort of.
Yeah, have you ever been to those shows where it's like they have someone in the back doing his voice and like motion capturing his face onto like, a
Like
real-time
California
animation?
Adventure stuff, yeah.
Yeah. It's like that, and Nintendo did a couple of those things in like malls. They get someone to do a Mario voice and like animate Mario in real time. That's really cute. Yeah.
Someone also got him to do a voice line from Hotel Mario, the all toasters toast line.
Oh no, really?
It's amazing.
Oh, he is too pure for that game.
So have we been just talking about
Yep.
games we've been playing just to patch it over at the end?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, we say at the end, we do have a little bit more. I was mentioning Xenoblade Chronicles and how I ended up going through that game. But we do also have news about Xenoverse, rather.
Xenoverse.
Yeah. So while Hat in Time has reached a whopping 500,000, Xenoverse is sitting at a cool 10 million units sold.
Woof. Woof.
And I mean,
10 million. Wow.
The first or
that's
the
between
second?
two games.
Oh, okay.
That's a series total.
Total.
Which is still pretty hefty, even for a Dragon Ball game.
It's like 5 million
Seriously?
each. Dang.
So, those games were... I'm surprised, because they were generally critically not very well liked, weren't they?
Yeah, they were like mixed at best.
Yeah, I played a demo, or I bought one at one point and started playing it on Steam, and granted I didn't get very far because I ended up getting a refund, but I was immediately like, oh, this game is definitely not for me. Like, I really disliked it to a very large degree, and it kind of, surprises me that it sold so much, even when other people tended to kind of agree the combat system was a little shallow and gimmicky, and the matchmaking was pretty bad. I hear. I guess it just goes to show just how powerful the Dragon Ball Z brand name is still to people. Like, I kind of thought of it as a niche, a big niche, a broad-reaching niche, but still a niche in general. But I don't know, Dragon Ball Z really pulls the business as far as video games go. And apparently, there was a statement put out by the Dragon Ball Fighters, developers, who basically said, like, yeah, the success of Xenoverse was directly responsible for the amount of funding we got for Fighters. Ugh, sorry.
That Z is tripping you up.
It is. Because it's Dragon Ball Z, so Fighter Z, doesn't matter.
Ball Z naming.
Oh boy, Luna, you're back already? How'd this...
I'm a little chagrined by the series selling as well as it is, because deep down, through all the crap games that exist, I love a good Dragon Ball game. I love the Legacy of Goku series. I love the Tenkaichi series, the Budokai series.
Yes.
I just... when it comes to Xenoverse, I was just so disappointed. I was like, this is it. This is going to be the Tenkaichi 4, quote-unquote, that I've been waiting for. And then I just got a punch right to the face when I played the Xenoverse combat that feels like hitting a fish with another fish.
Yeah, exactly. You just press the button and smack. Big smack. Now you walk up to them and smack. Big smack. There they go. It's not a... No. I didn't even go into it thinking it was going to be the next Tenkaichi 3. Like, I was just way too jaded at that point. I don't think we're ever going to get another Tenkaichi 3 level game.
Yeah.
But, and I was still disappointed when I got into Xenoverse. I was like, maybe this will be fun. And I picked it up for an hour and I was like, nope.
When 2 came out, I was a little bit fangirly because the marketing had a huge focus on both Bardock and Future Gohan.
I love Bardock, not as much a fan... Oh, wait, Future Gohan, the one with the different hair that loses his arm, yes?
Yeah.
I love Bardock and Future Gohan. I also love Trunks and Teen Gohan. And those are like, you put those 4 in a video game and give them focus, I'm just like, I'm there. I'm all over that.
I just remember seeing the posters that had, they were all along E3, E3 2016 to be exact, where it was just a big, their whole hallway was just poster after poster of Bardock and Goku and Future Gohan and Teen Trunks. And it was just like, oh my gosh, yes, give, please.
That's fantastic.
And then it was just like Xenoverse 1, but 1% better.
Exactly.
And not even the promise of Future Gohan could save it.
They had an opportunity to make it better, but I guess maybe they didn't see a whole lot of need to. If the first one sold so well as it obviously did, then maybe they kind of looked at that and said, well, the critics have some points, but we could also get away with not fixing any of that. So maybe they just kind of went ahead and did it. And frankly, as far as making money goes, might have been the smart move. I couldn't say that. But as far as making art goes, it has me disappointed.
Yeah.
But at least it funded Fighter Z, another game I haven't actually played, but it looks pretty cool.
Oh, it is awesome.
It was so much fun. It was so much fun when I played it. It was just... It's so fluid. It's just... If you want to see it in action, watch like a tournament match of it. It's just crazy. It's so hectic, and it's Marvel Ultimate if it was good.
Wow.
Oh.
Salt in wounds.
Because that game ain't good. It's a good game. It just doesn't look good. It looks horrible. What? Like,
and
wow.
Ray is our fighting game buff here, so you can probably trust his word.
Why did like some textures are too shiny? Like X and Zero are too shiny. I know they're supposed to be robots. I know they're robots, but they're way too shiny.
I'll take
it's
a
the Sonic
shiny
Adventure
Zero.
1 GameCube effect.
Oh jeez.
The
Is
shine.
that the one where it's like they tried making these like 3D looking sprites?
That's the one where they just put a shine effect, just shine.jpg on everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
It wasn't even a good shine.
No.
It was like the plastic kind of shine, not the metal one, if you know what I mean.
Right, the
Yeah, it
cheap
was a very-
Chinese bootleg shine.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, that's exactly what it looks like.
Yes, yeah.
Chinese bootleg plastic shine of Sonak. Sonak the Horde Judge.
Speaking of the base Goku and Vegeta were announced, then they look really good.
Yes.
They look super
Yeah.
fun.
A small confession from me when it comes to Goku and fighting games. I adore using base Goku. Like, all the time. I don't know why. I think Super Saiyan looks great, and I love, Super Saiyan 4 and stuff like that, but base Goku feels so much more technical in, like, all the games he's been in. No matter who develops him, he's just got really neat moves. The Kaioken Rush, he's got that Repulse Get Away From Me move that, I don't know, he just
The
feels
meteor
a little bit more...
smash.
Yes.
So that's why you love him.
Like,
Oh,
like
I
they-
see.
like-
I
That's
see.
right. He keeps promising, but he never delivers. It's like, when, Goku? When will you smash Meteor? All right.
like,
Well, there's your ship of the day, guys.
like,
Not in that sense. I mean in the violent sense. Then again,
Oh
not
my
mutually
God.
exclusive. But yeah, I adore base Goku. And the cool thing is base Vegeta isn't just Vegeta not Super Saiyan. It's actually Vegeta when he first landed on Earth with his
yeah.
tail
Yeah.
and his Saiyan armor. Which I think also has a really cool moveset. I want to use the Gallic Gun. I'll say it right now, I love the look of the Gallic Gun. I don't know why. It's a purple Kamehameha, but a little bit more ragged. Well, I like it.
yeah.
And I really like the detail that Arx has put into Goku's face, because there's a very subtle change in the art when you go from the Saiyan saga to the Cell saga to the Buu saga, and you can see it in Goku's eyes in that art style that Toriyama kind of perfected throughout his time. But he's got that more cartoony, younger look to him, and it just looks really good. I love it when they pay attention to that.
I know. That's one of the things I loved about Budokai Tenkaichi 3, because there were actually 3 base Gokus in that game. There was
yeah,
there was a
GT
Goku.
Goku too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Kid
Wait, no.
Goku.
The G2 Goku was a kid Goku. His base form was the kid, and then he went Super Saiyan 3, and then fully formed adult male Super Saiyan 4, and that was all one character, which was a little strange, but I was like, you know what? I'm alright with this. But there were 3 base adult Gokus in the game, and they all had different art styles to them. Like, the face looked different depending on where they were in the saga, and, like, even the muscle structure was different, kind of showing how he advanced physically throughout the series, and I was like, you know what? That makes me even happier. Just the happiest.
Yeah, that kind of
And-
stuff sounds really cool.
And the way that his gi would get destroyed in very specific rips from
Yes.
each of the movies. That was down to the detail, down to the single shred over the
know.
little logo, the little Kame logo.
Exactly. My personal favorite was the one where he's fighting with Frieza, and his orange gi gets ripped off, but his kind of blue gi is still there in mostly tatters, and he goes Super Saiyan then. Like, that whole aesthetic with those 3 colors and layers on him, that was my favorite costume to use. It's also one of my
Yeah.
favorite characters to use in that game, because his Super Saiyan versus Frieza version, even the hair had a very different cell shading effect to it that gave it a look
Yeah,
like
it was
first...
much wilder.
Yeah, it was
and less
much wilder
defined.
and much whiter, and the lines, the edges on each of the hair spikes were kind of more blurred, and it was kind of one flame as opposed to, like, defined spikes. And I was way into that. They just did a really good
Yeah.
job with that. But yeah, as far as Dragon Ball FighterZ Z fighters goes, they're getting base Goku, base Vegeta, and a beta will open up sometime in August. I think it was August 20th? Am I remembering that right? I'm the one who wrote the article. Why don't I remember this? It's getting a beta sometime.
Yeah, they showed off the colours, and they gave Vegeta the colour before going to Earth, but his hair is still black, and that makes you sad. Because the hair should be red in that colour, but it's not. It's black.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, the
when-
weird bug planet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that was when he was on the bug planet, and his armor was
Yeah.
totally different. It was an orange
Yeah.
and blue color scheme.
And his hair was like a red colour.
Yeah, and his hair was
Yeah.
red. The reason
It's-
they
not-
did that is because apparently at the time
red.
Toriyama had drawn the comic book in black and white, but he hadn't yet consulted with the animators on what Vegeta's official look should be. But they had to get the episode out, so they're just like, all right, maybe this is what Vegeta looks like. And then by the time he got to Earth, Toriyama had pretty much been on board and corrected it. But it's a unique little, like, it is a mistake in the truest sense, but it's become so iconic that I like it. And I think it's an alternate costume in Tenkaichi 3 now that I think about it.
The armor, at least, I feel like, is an alternate costume. I don't know if the weird reddish-tinged hair is, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the armor is.
Yeah. It's the hair's black in Fighters, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, when he gets to Earth, it's still black.
No, on the Black Planet it's red, but in the colors they made from it's black and not the right color.
Well, luckily, the game is perfect in every other way.
And it's moddable, so people can mod it and fix it.
Just add it yourself.
I was especially fond of that video that showed the game modded so that it has a static camera, so whenever somebody does a special, it kind of shows the zoomed out scene of them actually doing it, and you can see just to the degree that they used forced perspective in the animation where, like, Gohan's hand grows in size when he reels it back to do the father-son Kamehameha, and, like, I think 16 had some weird growth on his, but the character models deform that looks weird from the outside perspective, but so good when it's the in-game camera that I just can't help but respect everything they did with the art of that game.
Yeah, they're a really talented developer.
At this point, anime games, you can't tell if they're 3D or 2D. That's how good they look.
Yeah, it's so seamless.
Yeah. It's Guilty Gear's like that too. Guilty Gear uses the same source system. It just looks kind of worse because it requires less. But it uses the same sort of engine, the shading and models and stuff.
So let's continue our humorous buzz with one of our funnier kind of articles, which is a guy hacks a Switch, decides, hey, I'm a little upset that Splatoon 2 can be hacked so easily. So he decides to go all the way and hack the first few slots of the Splatoon 2 leaderboards to say, please add anti-cheat.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the banhammer just slams onto his face.
And which is almost kind of what he wanted in a sense, just not the entirety of it. Like, him doing this is totally harmless, and it seems entirely altruistic. He's basically pointing out, this is easy to hack, please implement some measures to make things fair for everybody. And Nintendo came by and banned him, which is kind of what they should do if somebody messes with the set dressing, you know what I mean? But what they're not doing is responding to the anti-cheat request. They're basically, it seems, as of right now, it seems like that's the only thing they've done. And, well, if he did it, what's to stop everyone else from doing it? They'll probably get banned eventually, but if they're doing it for a short period of time, that's a short period of games that they're ruining online, which is kind of to the detriment to all of the players of Splatoon 2, making it a less appealing game, meaning less people will want to buy it, so it's obviously Nintendo's favorite to handle this. But yeah, poor guy just got banned.
Cheating in Splatoon 1 was super rampant, and it is now more than ever because no one's really playing that game, and so really the only people involved there are, well, okay, a lot of people playing that game still today are people who've hacked their Wii U and who can easily just hack the game. So if you go back and play Splatoon 1 now, it's not very enjoyable. Splatoon 2, they didn't really put any anti-cheat measures in place because they were just relying on the Switch not being hacked, and, well, here we are. And I think now more than ever, they probably should implement at least some measures. I personally haven't run into any hackers while playing, and neither have anyone I know, but from reports I'm hearing online, like on Reddit and stuff, and especially this hack now being so public, it's probably something that's best addressed now.
Yeah, before we have to start shelling out for online is kind of optimal time.
Exactly.
Yeah, there should be some like a check or something to see if anything's weird with the console. Like, there's probably a way for them to see if it's hacked or not. Maybe, I don't know. Probably not.
Through the information being sent to the game, I think it would be hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be able to tell if you used certain hacks and went online at all, then I think Nintendo could swat you down. It's if you do certain things that mess with like the developer features, like changing the icon on your Switch to something unique, then you'll definitely get banned, or so I've heard. But I don't know if
Has anyone been banned over that yet? Like
I think so, yeah.
custom profile
Yeah.
picture.
I think
Yeah, I think. I heard a couple stories like that, yeah.
So, I mean, Nintendo has some way of knowing. Because, you see people that are talking about, oh, my Switch was banned, no. And,
Yeah.
I mean, they've got to step it up one way or another. They're still new to online. That's the thing. Is that the 3DS was really their first time for really tackling major online, because do we really want to count Brawl and any other Wii games as online?
Mario Kart, Wii.
Not really.
It's like
I
with
mean,
3DS
Mario
and Wii
Kart
U, they
Wii.
tried.
with the Wii U, there were quite a few things. Wii U's had Smash 4 and the first Splatoon. So
Smash 4 had terrible online on launch, at least.
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brutal.
But
It's
Splatoon was their real first big league attempt, and it did work until the Wii U was hacked. And now we're facing the same kind of situation all over again, except for now we have to pay for online. They're really amping the odds up here, trying to be like, yeah, you want to be part of Nintendo Switch Online. And then you
Yeah.
just see this
Yeah.
dude hacking the leaderboard, and he's like, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not worth it anymore. I mean, perhaps Nintendo isn't going to soft launch whatever method they have for detecting online Switch cheating or any kind of quality of life things, and they want to launch it alongside the paid online service. I don't think it'd be the smart decision, but I'm just kind of trying to work all angles and say maybe they have a bunch of things that are kind of in development right now that they're not implementing, even though they could be, and they just want to come out with an online service that says, okay, everyone, get out your wallets now, but you're not just paying for something you've always had. We're sending out all of these new services and tweaks, and now it's never been better. So now you feel better about paying for this thing that you've always had since forever.
I think
So.
Yeah, I think potentially that could be true. They did delay the service a couple times now, and it was supposed to have launched around this time or a few months from now last year. I'm just going to assume that extra time was to implement new features like that, because they very well could have just flipped a switch, started charging people online for whatever they have now. So I'm going along with what you're saying and thinking, or hoping that is the case.
Yeah.
But if they're going to charge money, they have to do something about cheating, about a lot of things, actually.
Yeah. Yep. So maybe in their best interest, they could have their cake and eat it too by saying, we have something in the works that'll be out really soon that should be able to deal with this. It should launch around the same time that we start charging for Nintendo Switch Online. Just to let people know that, they have something and they're doing something about it, even if we don't have empirical evidence. And they could just roll that out with Switch Online paid service and still kind of use that as an incentive to get people to pay and have a win-win question mark?
Wait, but would you really have Nintendo acknowledge hackers so publicly?
I think they should. I think now that it's got a little,
Perhaps they should, but would they? I mean, maybe, I don't know, like, any piracy protections they've put in place over the years, even when asked about it in person at E3 and whatnot, all the representatives are, they skirt around any mention of piracy, of hacking.
Or hardware revisions or anything.
Yeah.
At E3 in particular, that's basically one giant platform for marketing. So they're doing their best to push their products in that sense. But when it comes to just buzz around, hacking and stuff like that, I feel like it wouldn't be in their best interest to acknowledge something like SXOS, because you're just giving more coverage to something that's basically you don't want people doing. But in terms of people hacking and cheating, you would basically say, we're dealing with it. You wouldn't be giving coverage to anything in particular. People who are thinking about hacking their console already know that there is a way to hack it, or if they were interested in it, it's a Google search away. So I don't think it would really do Nintendo any damage by acknowledging it. I think it would basically be just a PR management thing, and I think it would be positive. But I don't know. There may be some truth to what you're saying.
I'm like maybe thinking from the angle of an investor. You know, you don't really see. Well, I know PlayStation Network and Xbox Live. I know they get hacked in general. Just the network goes down, but in terms of like individual game hacks, you don't really see many exploits on online games on consoles. Like that's the realm of PC typically. Could it be that maybe they don't want to say anything like that to alarm investors? Like even if it is a PR call, even if most people who are into hacking know what it is, and maybe it won't have any effect on consumers. Perhaps they're doing a lot of this to save their investors.
Well, I think right now they're really playing it safe. If we're gonna hear anything, it won't be relatively soon because their investors are getting pretty antsy, especially with the supposed no fall games lineup and the new shift in presidents and everything.
Yeah, how is their stock doing right now?
I think there was this big scandal where someone bet a ton of money against them for their stock to crash.
Really? Somebody high profile or just
someone relatively like middle tier?
Such a strange thing. News? I still don't understand.
Yeah, that was today.
Oh, so what you're saying is they were betting against Nintendo to crash. You think that could have caused some of the market slump they're facing right now?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I feel like Nintendo's gonna stay solid, but
yeah, I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't know if they're facing a market slump per se. I think it's basically something the investors invented by way of their perception of Nintendo, that Nintendo's doing poorly when they're really not. I mean, with the Switch selling as much as it has, and Nintendo software still selling massive quantities, and Zelda Breath of the Wild being hailed as one of the best Zeldas in years, and Mario Odyssey, people ate that up, which was cool. So I feel like Nintendo financially is doing great, and it's just kind of the investors projecting disaster where there is none, and that's like being a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's what's lowering the stock prices, is just the idea that there could be something on the horizon.
Yeah, it's all about growth. Now, Nintendo's sitting on fat stacks of cash. If they made no money, they could survive for years, maybe even decades, on just what they have stored. It's like Nintendo's not gonna go anywhere. But it's the growth that a lot of investors are picky about. Like, did you guys see Facebook recently? In an investor call, they basically said our growth is slowing because of certain privacy scandals and new privacy laws being put into place.
And stocks just plummeted, like really hard too.
I think it was almost 180 billion, somewhere between 100 and 200 billion dollars of losses in a single day.
Yeah, it was massive.
And here's the thing: the growth was just slowing. It wasn't going into the negatives. There's still more people being added to the platform than leaving it. They're still growing. It's just a little bit of growth decline seemed to cause this big investor exodus. And of course, you can't compare apples to oranges. These are completely different companies and different markets. But
Sure.
Investors are historically fickle about things like that. Because if the company's not consistently growing, they're not making much money.
Yeah, I think it goes to show the volatility of the market. The fact that businesses can be made golden eggs in one day and crash through the ground in the next 24 hours kind of makes everyone relatively jumpy. And as far as Nintendo goes, it really doesn't apply as much. But as far as what we saw with their Wii U, I mean, Nintendo was in a pretty low place not too long ago. So maybe the investors aren't exactly in the wrong for being as jumpy as they are. I mean, I personally don't see things going that way. I can only see things going up with the Switch and the software, and I don't see anything wrong with their fall lineup, frankly. But, investors aren't necessarily gamers. They're not going to see things the same way we do. They're not going to look at Nintendo's fall lineup and be like, yeah, it's small, but wow, those are some really great games happening. They'll just look at it in terms of numbers and be like, well, Are people really going to buy these? How sure are we that people are going to buy these? Do we want to risk? It's all a risk and reward game, so...
They're really just looking for pachinko machines.
That's basically... All we're saying is Nintendo should go full pachinko. Pachinktendo. Coming to a store near you.
Redacted.
Redacted.
So, our final major topic of the day is this really cute idea that one of the orchestrators for the Final Fantasy series, and he's been involved with a lot of video games besides Final Fantasy, but he's taken to Kickstarter, and he's got 3 different projects going on concurrently, and they're all for 3 separate games. Suikoden 2, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, and the original Star Fox. And what he wants to do is he wants to create an orchestral remix of all the songs of each game's soundtrack, and then release them on a nice CD.
Aw, that sounds great.
Sounds so nice, actually. So it looks like each of the individual soundtracks, one for Suikoden 2, one for Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, and one from Star Fox, are actually being funded independently of each other. So we could, once these things hit the end in 31 days, we could see one being funded over the other. And as of right now, Suikoden 2 seems to be at $9,000 pledged. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon is at $3,300, which is a bummer because that's the one I want the most. And then Star Fox is at $4,100. So once these 31 days are up, we may see 1, 2, 3, or none being produced.
I'm kind of scared that we'd get none.
Come on,
it's a bit risky
I'm
when you're...
gonna say that Suikoden's gonna make it because, you know, they're really desperate to cling on to anything from that series because, you know, Konami's pachinko. And Suikoden is dead.
Also pachinko.
Suikoden, dead.
But I love orchestral remixes of soundtracks. There's the Ace Attorney one. There's a bunch of really good ones. And, I mean, these are all really solid choices.
Everything sounds good, reorchestrated.
I could live without the Star Fox one, but I would really like to see Shadow Dragon and Suikoden 2 get one.
Yeah, I could live without Star Fox as well. There are a few choice songs from Star Fox that I'd be kind of jazzed to hear, but as far as on the whole, I'm kind of, this is come or go. I really want Shadow Dragon, probably the most, only because I haven't actually played Suikoden 2 or any Suikoden game, so I'm not familiar with the music at all.
I'm not really into any of those 3 games there. I've never actually properly played a Star Fox. I don't think they're really known for their music, but there's probably some tracks in there that get people nostalgic. Suikoden, I know, is something a lot of people love. And then, of course, Fire Emblem is Fire Emblem.
Yeah. Was Koji Kondo responsible for Star Fox's soundtrack?
Yeah, I think so.
It would make sense. It's kind of hard to nail down a Koji Kondo song, at least for me, because he's got such a breadth of styles and he changes. He adapts so well to different themes and restrictions. Especially when it came to the Legend of Zelda games on the N64, where they basically said, okay, you have to write songs that are in this key using this small breadth of notes. And he was like, oh, do I now? He described it later as one of the most challenging yet educational experiences of his musical career. And I just found that impressive because those are some of the most iconic video game sounds to this day. So Koji Kondo's got a whole lot of adaptability when it comes to things like that, so it's kind of hard to pin down a style, at least for me. So I think he made the Star Trek soundtrack. Maybe he didn't. Who knows?
I would wager to say he did, especially because it's early Nintendo.
He did the composition for Star Fox 64. Don't know about the other ones.
That's a good Star
Makes
Fox
sense.
game.
Yeah, that was a good Star Fox game. What about the other Star Fox games? I don't think I've played any of the other ones.
You're pretty good. That's all you need to play. 64 is the only one that exists.
Oh, okay, great.
All the Wii U one needed was pachinko, and people wouldn't have hated it.
But
I agree.
Just put pachinko in everything. In
Yes.
every media.
The
Pachinko's
world
the
must
new
be
box.
pachinko. What is the world but a giant pachinko ball? I mean, think about it, everybody.
So I'm thinking, next episode of Tempcast, it's just gonna be a pachinko machine.
I think so. I think it'll just be the
Pachinko
sounds
cast.
of a pachinko machine. I'm gonna fly to Japan, go to a pachinko parlor, and just hit record and just wait for like 2 hours, and we'll just get the sounds of heaven.
Yes. I think that'll go over well with our fans.
I really think
All
so
hail
too.
Konami.
Like, comment, and
All
subscribe
hail
if you
Konami.
Yeah,
think.
just rename the site Pachinko-Temp.
Yes.
Actually, no, Pachinko Permanent.
Pachinko permanent.
Yes, please.
And so I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, looks like we've
so.
come to the end. Any
Yeah.
closing thoughts you want to get out before?
Not related to pachinko.
Not related, but I will redact everything. Don't you tempt me.
Redacted.
Yes.
Now I'm gonna have to redact that. Thank you.
This episode is quarantined.
This
Can't
this,
let the pachinko out. It'll infect everyone.
this episode.
This
is-
episode is actually a cryptocurrency miner.
This,
Yeah, if you listen to us talk for
Goddammit.
these past 2 hours, then we've been mining cryptocurrency off your brain.
This episode is sponsored by Pachinko and Konami.
That's it.
Amen.
We need crypto Pachinko.
As if they have any money left.
We've reached a level beyond.
We've transcended simple currency.
Crypto.
Oh, that's the perfect ending.
All right.
Yep.
So I guess we just
All
give
right.
our sign off.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for listening, everybody. It's been a fun time. We hope you had fun too, because I had fun. And thank you
Features
for
now, everybody.
listening. Hopefully you'll tune in for the next Tempcast, which will be about, I don't know, whatever.
Thank you.
Whatever you want, honestly. Write something in the comments and we'll be like, yeah, we'll cover that. I'll talk about anything. You try and stop me.
Yep. As always, suggestions are greatly appreciated.
And as always, we're eternally grateful to your support.
Yes.
Just more Pachinko talk.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the direction we're going with this.
I think that's on the docket.
Welcome back to the second episode of the Tempcast. We've got a fudge sickles. Blooper reel.
Give me just 1 second. We'll get like a small stool.
Alright, okay.
All right.
Oh god, man, that's so in a minute breakdown right
Man,
now.
I don't know about you, but I can't do anything without my patented small stool.
Yeah. Sponsored by Small Stools.
Small Stools Incorporated. Have you ever thought to yourself, your poops are just way too big? Think of small stools.
That'll go over well.
Perfect.
We're gonna need a pachinko machine for our Discord.
There's a
Pachinko kind of like a Pachinko machine.
There's a Pachinko machine in Where I Wear Gold, interestingly enough.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
Oh,
cool. I wonder how
They're
many times we can say
invading.
pachinko machine before it
it's
starts
like
sounding
Konami
weird.
in the
Pachinko machine.
credits.
Say pachinko machine 10 times fast.
Pachinko machine, pachinko machine, pachinko machine, pachinko machine, pachinko machine. Ow, that hurts.
Everything is pachinko machine now.
I think I'm a pachinko machine. Yeah, you need the hook to fly over the porta potty. Not a sentence
Yeah.
I say often, but you know.
Squatting for your stool.
No, I have this cute little stool now. It's like 8 inches off the ground, and I have a pillow on top of it.
Whenever you say the word stool, I'm just replacing it with poop in my head, and that sentence you constructed is
Why?
hilarious. Because
Why?
stool is another word for poop. Why would you know this? Think about who I am and think about the words you're saying. It makes sense.
Yeah, everyone set your phones to mute, set your Discords
Right,
to
yeah.
do not disturb.
Mine's been not disturbed. I bet.
Mine
I
is
bet.
perpetually do not disturb.
I
Anyone
started
who
that
is
trend.
not- no, you didn't. I had that before I came in here. Why would
bet
you not
it's
put it on
crap.
do not disturb?
I don't know who keeps it on actual online. Look at Isaac. He's green. Look at Meteor. What an idiot. He's green.
Yeah,
You
I'm
get, like,
green.
little blips
Nobody in
every
their
time
right
someone says
mind,
something.
nobody in their right mind would ever want to talk to me. So whenever somebody does, I know it's because it's something
my
important, and so I respond to it. So it's easy that way.
Aww.
What? Okay. It wasn't meant to. All right.
The green feels morally wrong.
Oh,
So, are we getting racial
Yeah.
with this, Halo? Is there something you want to come on?
great.
What are you part of the? Are you green?
First
Oh,
the
yeah,
stool,
I'm
now
super
the
green.
Worst case scenario, search it on your phone with your phone on mute if you absolutely have to be looking something up mid-chat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no one wants to hear. I think all of us have mechanical.
They're so
Keyboards.
nice. They're so nice to type on though.
I'm squatting in my bedroom, so I have a nice, quiet laptop keyboard.
Squatting where on your stool?
I'm
I'm
Okay,
sorry. I,
what's
just,
We're not gonna get over that.
I am
well,
squatting
I'm
on
not
my
at the very
stool.
least.
That one.
I'm glad I have this audio clip for later use. Anyway,
Oh, good.
Uh,
I'm glad someone's recording this for a blooper reel. So basically, what happened is David Cage, the founder of the company, apparently had some.
Jason! Ow, fuck!
Oh god damn it.
sorry.
Was
what
it
happened?
worth it? Was it worth it?
Was it worth it? No. Of course it wasn't worth it.
I didn't anticipate falling off my stool.